Hello and welcome to Off Court Connection presented by Hall Pass Media. I am your host, Payton Saltmarsh, and today I am so excited because I'm joined by video editor Scott Horvitz and then Milwaukee Bucks scout BJ Domingo. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Before we jump into everything, I think it's important to touch on all the things going on in the world today, from coronavirus to the racial injustices. I just think it's so important to lend time to the essential workers that are putting in work every day to keep us safe. And it's just we're all in this together and experiencing a time of growth. And I just want everyone to know that we're looking out for you. We're here as a Summer League family. And yeah, we're just here for everyone. So with that being said, how are you guys doing? How are you holding up?
Doing great. Obviously, like you said, it's a tough time, and definitely thank you to the first responders and essential workers, because I actually live with one. My girlfriend works in the hospital, so I hear the stories and I know what they go through on a day-to-day. So definitely big shout out to those people.
Wow. What did you do?
So she's a clinical tech right now. She's in the middle of getting her master's, so she's doing double duty.
Wow. Yeah, she's in the heart of it. Big thank you to her.
No doubt.
Wow. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm back home in Pittsburgh with my family. So, I mean, it's been nice to be with everyone. It's been a while since all five of us worked together. And I also want to shout out all the workers out there that are really putting their lives on the line. And it's good to see.
Yeah. What have you guys been doing with your time? I mean, us as a sports community, it's kind of a weird period of time because along with the world kind of stopping, sports also stopped. Have you created any new hobbies? What have you been doing?
So for me, this type of the year is also draft time for us anyway. So as scouts, we're doing those deep dives. We're watching films, we're still meeting, we're talking to college coaches, getting information on the guys, just obviously trying to get a feel for them as people as well as players. So that's been a good amount of my time. But also bought a PS4. Haven't played video games in about 5 years, so that's been taking up a little bit of time, catching up on shows, just kind of relaxing.
Yeah. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, same thing with me. I mean, work really hasn't slowed down. I'm working on a lot of videos, if not more than usual. But I mean, I'm still getting in some new hobbies. I've worked out more than I ever have in my whole life, which is good. And I've been taking up guitar a little bit, so that's been good. We'll see how long that lasts, but I mean, I'm trying to learn something new.
Are you into any songs yet, or are you still in the kind of?
Oh, no. I'll be honest. I've learned G and C, 2 chords.
Okay,
so
we're getting there.
It's a start.
How about workouts? What are you guys doing? I know I'm on like walks and bike rides here in Utah. We have the mountains, so it's beautiful. What have you guys been doing to stay fit, stay sane?
I've been we got a little bit of weights, like ab rollers in the house, and then sometimes I'll run around the neighborhood, and we got stairs, so I'll carry the weights, run stairs. That, or maybe like the occasional Nike app. My girlfriend likes to do that, so every once in a while I'll join in with that.
Yeah, and where are you guys at? Where are you living right now?
So I'm in Milwaukee right now.
All right, yeah. And Scott,
I'm
in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'm back in Pittsburgh.
Okay. What have you been up to?
I've been doing a lot of pull-ups, push-ups, doing some curls, stuff that, I always say I'm going to do. And I'm like, next year I'll start it. And I just never have. Finally, I'm able to do those things. So again, we'll see how long it lasts, but it's a start. I'll take it.
Be ready for those trips back to Miami, man, with all those push-ups.
Exactly. You got to get ready for the beach.
And you guys mentioned work. I'm so interested what your roles are now. I mean, BJ, you're a scout. How do you scout when there's nothing to scout? No live events. How does that work?
So it's kind of obviously a lot of it has been, making the calls now, because even though we didn't get the whole picture in terms of guys getting to play through the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournaments, you still have a pretty good amount of film. So you're calling coaches, and then with the film stuff, you're kind of going back, most guys you'll probably watch maybe a handful of games up until this point. So maybe you go back, watch 1 or 2, or some guys you just haven't gotten a chance to see. You kind of really get the time to lock in on them and learn more about guys that you don't really know about. Because really, I mean, there's so many good players out there, so you can't cover them all in in just the season, so you definitely need this time. And obviously, this has been a big time to kind of really just turn over every stone and really cover your bases.
Yeah, definitely. And Scott, I know you just made your transition to New York with overtime. Now you're back in Pittsburgh. What is your workload like?
It's been interesting. I mean, I've now been in 5 cities in about like the past 6 years, so my brain is just all over the place. I finally made the move to New York. I was getting used to it there, and now I'm back home in Pittsburgh again. But I mean, that's what you asked, right? What's the workload? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's been good. I mean, overtime is mainly digital, so I mean, our content is out there on so many platforms, and it's something that a lot of kids, Generation Z, we call it, they're all looking for that stuff right now when they're stuck at home, and we're able to provide them so much content and so many different shows to follow along with. And luckily, we were able to shoot a lot of it before all this happened, so I've been able to edit a bunch of stuff and get it out there for people to really latch on to something positive right now.
Yeah. And you mentioned you've been in multiple cities. And I know you've mentioned before that it's so important to build your resume. Before you get to your dream city, you always wanted to be in New York, but you had to take those jobs before to really hone in on that one. Can you talk about your journey and kind of what the process is like getting to your dream job in the NBA?
Yeah, it was tough. I get asked that a lot. In the beginning, I always knew I wanted to work in sports, but I didn't know what path I wanted to go down. So I kind of just applied to anything. And I did have a little experience with shooting video and editing video at Indiana University. So I started applying to everything: MLS teams, teams overseas, teams, NBA teams, NFL teams, all over the place. And finally, I heard back from the Pelicans and the Saints, and I did a 1-year internship with them, and I gained all the experience in the world, and it was probably the best thing I could have done. But the reason I say that is that I knew that I could end up anywhere, and I was okay with that. And luckily, I landed one of the coolest cities in the world. But I would recommend people to just go wherever you can and do it and get that experience, and then use that. And I did it for 1 year, and then I was able to make another move to Miami, and then I did that. I didn't love the city itself, so I still had that on my resume, and then I finally was able to move to New York. So I mean, I needed everything to get to where I'm at right now.
What was that Pelicans job like? Because you were young. I did the same thing, kind of production assistant internship with the Utah Jazz, and you're just thrown into the midst of it. And I know you got to produce the game one time, and then you're editing one thing, and it's just crazy how many roles you kind of do in one single position. What was that like being with an NBA team so young?
That was one of the craziest things that I've ever done. I mean, I went from being in college, working with some of the players on the IU basketball team, but they were my age, and they were just kind of students with me. And then I get thrown in. I was 22, and there was a picture that was just shown of me miking up Anthony Davis, and they kind of just like threw me in, and I didn't know how to do it at the time. So that picture, he's just like, "What are you doing right now?" So, I mean, there was stuff like that, or I'd be in the locker room, like shooting something. And I remember the team was having a Nerf gun battle, and Rajon Rondo, like grabbed me and was hiding behind me. And I was just like, this is wild. Like, I was playing 2K last week with you guys, and now I'm just here doing this. So that was one of the coolest things. And the experience itself, like you said, I was able to do so many things, from be in the control room or be shooting games on the court, producing games. I was doing so many different things that I never thought I was going to be able to do that early in my career. And that helped me kind of hone in on what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to shoot and edit based off like dipping my toes in all those different things. And it was great.
I love that picture of you miking up Anthony Davis. And Adam Silver came to the Utah Jazz, and he was doing an interview with our sideline reporter, Kristen Kenny, and they had me mic him up. And I didn't know what the mic even was. I was like sitting with it. I'm putting it on the wrong side of his jacket. And finally, Kristen comes over and she's like, I I can do it. It's okay. And I'm like, thank you. I'm glad there's not me doing that experience.
That's a weird thing thrown in the mix on.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to do it. And that's why they made me do it. They're just like, you're the mic guy today. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, whatever.
And they're busy. They're getting their camera set up. And like someone just got to go throw a mic on. But you're like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
BJ, let's hear about your journey. And you kind of have a role, like a dream role. You're a scout for the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, how do you get there?
So for me, it all started as an intern in Warren's office. So he had a relationship with my dad because my dad owns a small transportation company in the Bay Area. And so he has very select clients, and Warren was one of them. So they built a relationship that way. So that was kind of my in. And so I started filing in the filing cabinets and the files, doing all that type of stuff. And then it got to the internship in Vegas at the Summer League. And obviously, everybody's there. So over the years, you just meet so many people, which leads to different internships. So I got my break into the NBA with the Warriors. So I actually, one of the guys who was the head video guy at the time was one of the also had a background in Summer League. So obviously that connection got me in there, and it's all who you know. So I was able to kind of use that opportunity. And somebody I met from the Warriors heard about the opportunity with Milwaukee. And so it was all kind of connected with there. And then, I've been in Milwaukee the last 6 years, started as a player development intern in terms of player development off the floor. So in terms of, I was picking up family members from the airport. We had a young team and a couple of young guys with injuries. So we had a guy from France who had 2 foot surgeries. So he didn't have a license. So I had to drive him to and from physical therapy every day, help him with the groceries, doctor's appointments. I was doing that my first year. They knew I wanted to get back into the basketball side. So kind of after that season around draft time, they kind of let me help out with the draft process, shuttling, kind of getting the paperwork stuff, just a lot of logistical work, which is obviously great. And so from there, I got to be in meetings also. And I guess I said get a couple decent answers. So, they brought me over to the basketball side full time as kind of like a basketball ops runner, essentially. So I was doing everything from scraping ice off of players' cars to taking scouting trips. So I did that for a couple years. And then 3 years ago, John Horvitz promoted me to scout. So just be kind of taking it one day at a time through that.
I think we can all kind of relate to doing those coffee runs, and you're in the business, but you're not doing what you want to yet. You're not working with the players or developing the skills you want to. When you're doing those runs and things, how do you listen in on conversations, or how are you honing in on what you want to do while you're still driving players to and from, icing off their cars? Like, what do you do in the meantime to get from point A to point B?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is kind of when you're in those beginning roles is they want to see you work. You got to show that you can follow direction. They got to be able to rely on you for certain things. I think once you kind of show that positive track record of being somebody that they can rely on, then they start just adding more and more to your plate. And I think that's really where it starts.
Yeah. I kind of want to throw a hard question out at you. Is there a certain skill you'd say in yourself that got you to that position? If one of your bosses could look at you and say, oh, BJ's our guy, he does this, what would that be?
I think I do a good job evaluating talent. I think I've had a passion for the game for a long time, and I watch a lot of films. I think one of the things I think that I do a good job of is kind of finding the little details in guys that separates players. So I think I can do a good job of kind of separating guys rather than kind of getting guys into groups and, maybe 2 or 3 guys get lumped. I think I do a good job of kind of differentiating what makes each guy unique.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that's a good advice to give to people who want to be scouts coming up. I mean, watch film, look at those little things, like make yourself an asset and just not the normal type of what they're looking for.
For sure. I think for me, at the end of the day, your job is to make life easier for the GM and assistant GM to kind of make those real personnel decisions, because as a scout, you're not the one drafting people. You're providing the information for the people who pick the players. So I think it's important to do your homework, like you said, and just to be confident in what you're saying, because you want to bring positive things to the conversation, and hopefully you're pushing the dialogue in a positive direction, so where you can kind of help people make decisions easier.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things I've heard. It was one time in a podcast or something, and they said, if you want to get a job, you make your boss's life easier. You just do everything you can to help everyone above you so they can do their jobs efficiently. I mean, I think that's the key.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And Scott, you made your transition to your dream city of New York. What was that adjustment like? And then what is working at Overtime like? It's kind of this big content machine. What is that like?
Yeah, I mean, New York is such an awesome city. I've always wanted to be there. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm kind of more of an East Coast guy. Miami just wasn't doing it for me. I mean, I love the palm trees and the beaches, but it wasn't me. So the transition to New York has been great. It was interesting because I took a risk and I left my job without having another job in New York. So I moved there and I started looking for jobs while I was in New York. So that was definitely a tough time, but I got through it and I landed this job at Overtime, and I couldn't be more happy to be there. I mean, the people I work with are amazing. Everyone's on the same page. It's one of the coolest places I've ever seen, and definitely the coolest place I've ever worked. And that's my desk setup right there.
Nice.
That's so awesome. Would you guys say you had like an aha moment? I mean, you both are in positions that people can only dream about. I mean, you're growing up and you're like, oh, if I could be anything, I want to work in the NBA. I want to scout. I want to do content. Like, have you had an aha moment of, wow, I'm really here? Or looking back at your younger self, they'd be proud of that moment.
Yeah, for me, it was the first time getting to go to the combine, because you do the interviews all day, which is great because you get to actually meet the guys and ask them questions. But then when you get to the gym, when it's time to actually play, you look around the gym and you see Jerry West, or you see Rod Thorne, or John Calipari, or Doc Rivers. You just see all these legendary names, guys who have, made huge impacts in the basketball community. And just being around those guys, you kind of feel like, wow, this is a big deal.
Absolutely, totally. What about you?
Yeah, for me, I'd say it was definitely when I was working for Miami, and I would travel with the football and the basketball team, and I remember being at all of these arenas, or the football stadiums or the basketball arenas, and seeing my intro video on the scoreboard or on the video board. I just remembered, I remember being a little kid going to Steelers games and telling my dad, I want to make those types of videos for the team. And there was a moment when I was at Cowboys Stadium and they played my intro and I got to see it in there. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I mean, at the time I was numb to it. It didn't really seem real, but it is pretty crazy looking back at what I was able to do with it.
What emotions or feelings do you feel when thousands of people are getting chills from your video? I know I've seen a million videos and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so hyped.
Yeah.
Feeling that you did that, all these people are watching your video.
It's really cool. I mean, that's how I judge my videos. Especially when I was making intro videos, if I wasn't getting goosebumps or chills when I watched it, it wasn't good enough. I think that's the best part of the game. I remember going when I was little to Penguins games, and I wanted to get there early to watch the light show and the video board and all of that before the game and get pumped up for that. So I always wanted to make mine just not emotional, but you want to feel that connection and get goosebumps. And it is a little nerve-wracking when I mean, I'm in with what I do. You're able to check Twitter and Instagram and see what people are saying about the videos. So that's definitely a little nerve-wracking, but it is cool when people like it.
How long does it take to make one of those?
The intro videos that I was making probably depends on how, in sports, the turnaround sometimes is crazy. Sometimes I had a week to do it, but I'd probably say a month or even longer would be what I would want to really tweak it and get it to where it needs to be.
That's crazy. And I've never really thought about that. People are live tweeting about your content. That would be so nerve-wracking, and I can't even
Yeah.
imagine, but you've got a good handle on it. I've seen your stuff, and it's incredible. I love that
Thank
you
you.
come up with like a chills factor. That's how you do your video.
Yeah. Because I remember judging that when I was at the games when I was little, and I'd be like, oh, that was boring. That didn't pump me up for the game. So, and I still do that. When I go to certain games, I'm like, really? Like, come on, I want to get into this.
Yeah, I mean, that basically sets the tone for the day, because I know even though I go to a lot of games every day, I definitely watch every single one of those preview videos.
Yeah, exactly. And it's tough. In college too, it's really tough because there's so many roles and so many things that we couldn't use, and certain songs you couldn't use, and definitely no swear words. So sometimes you make a whole video, and then I had trouble, like the head coach didn't like the song, and then I got to restart the whole thing, or compliance didn't allow it, and then restart it. Can you just throw another song? And I'm like, doesn't work like that. But that was another thing that I'm just remembering, and it was not fun doing that, but it's something you got to deal with.
What was your biggest roadblock? Was it coaches? Was it your boss? Like, who was it with certain content? What was it that kept coming back and saying like, oh, no, change this, change that?
Honestly, it was nobody specific. It's just working in sports, or at least I should say working for a sports team, especially college. I was pretty much working for the basketball team, the football team, the baseball team, track and field, swim and dive, everyone. So things are just coming in left and right, and you don't have a lot of time to do it, and you can't get caught up in that. And every single coach has a say in what they want, and then the athletic director doesn't like it, or someone that's donating to the school doesn't like it. Like, there's so many things. So you, like, once you get used to it, you just deal with it. But in the beginning, it was tough.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because right now is the time we'd be at Summer League. And it's just so weird to think that we'd be down there. You both are seasoned vets, both did multiple seasons down there. What was your biggest development in Summer League that you kind of took away from and brought into your roles now?
I think for me, the biggest thing is, when you watch Albert and Warren work, they don't relax until the job is done. Those guys are like locked in. It's 2 weeks every single day from beginning to end. They're locked in, and they don't hesitate until the job is 100% done. So I've definitely tried to take that approach with me, just really being serious about all little details, because those guys, they're always looking to get better.
Always looking to get better. I know us interns were getting out at like 11, sometimes midnight, and then you're getting in your car and you're just exhausted. And then all of a sudden, here comes Albert, and you're like, he's still here with the rest of us. It's just crazy.
For sure.
So crazy. Scott, do you have a memory that sticks out to you?
I have so many. I mean, backing up what BJ said, I just remember like what I learned there was, I was just like, wow, like how these guys work so hard. And I was still in college when I started, and I had never seen anything like it. And just, I mean, my biggest, it's not a specific memory, but just all the people over my 3 years that I got to work there, all the people that I met and all the different interns that I worked with, and the relationships that I built are like, people don't realize. I say to my family members all the time, they're like, how do you know him? That's Summer League. There's so many people. Even me and BJ ran into each other in Miami. He was there scouting the game, and I was filming the game, and that kind of stuff happens all the time. I mean, I now work with Shay Dawson, who I interned with. She works at Overtime too. I mean, it's just, there's so many memories. I can't think of anything specific right now, but there's actually, I got to go on. I remember David Blatt, when he was coaching the Cavs, he sat down next to me, and like right next to behind the basket, and he just like took my phone charger, and he just like got up and took it and just went. And I was just like, I don't know if I should do it. It's kind of a cool story, but I need my charger. It was just like one of those things where in no other place other than Summer League would something like that happen. And I remember seeing, I think Giannis was a rookie, and he was hiding under the bleachers, eating chicken tenders in between games, stuff like that. Just like stuff that you never would think would happens at Summer League.
Well, I gotta know, did you get your charger back?
I'm trying to remember if he brought it. I think I got it back. I think I got it back.
Love it. BJ, I was reading in an article and I love it. Your takeaway from Summer League, you said then, was my ego is not my amigo. Can you expand on that?
So for those that don't know, the very first meeting, when everybody's together finally and kind of they're getting ready to set the tone for everything and all the rules, Warren will let everybody know that, you know, your ego is not your amigo. And basically what that means is, you know, no task is too big for anybody. You know, we all have a job to do. We all can support each other no matter what. I mean, you know, it's Warren and Albert's show, but those guys are picking up trash. You know, they're bringing people waters. You know, they do everything. And so if those guys who are at the top can do that type of stuff, then there's no excuse for anybody else. And that basically sets the tone for the 2 weeks.
Totally. I mean, the networking you get down there, the experiences, it's a family. And like they said, like if you're too good to pick up trash, there are thousands of other people waiting to take your spot. So
For sure.
it's just a family atmosphere. Like you said, you run into each other. Shay Dawson gets you a job at overtime or helps that networking. It's a family atmosphere. Would you guys say that's what separates it from other sports environments? What else? How is this different from an NBA environment or just other things you've seen in the sports world?
I think for sure, because even though we're only together for 2 weeks a year, as soon as we get back to each other, it feels like we just saw each other yesterday, you know, and it's just the family atmosphere it's strong. There's a strong feeling of it. You know, there's a lot of people that are a part of this family. And whenever we see each other, we know it and we're all excited.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you guys so much coming on here to talk Summer League, life updates, sports. You guys are so awesome. I want to thank Albert Hall for giving us, again, another opportunity to stay connected and really just get to know everyone in the sports family. So you guys are great. I'm excited to see what you do when sports comes back, and even not, because you guys are still working your butts off. So, yeah, this has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Definitely for having me.
And then make sure to tune in to all the other amazing web shows that Hall Pass has. You've got Basketball Jones with Mark Jones, Pickup Game with Seth Greenberg, Sports Business Classroom. These are just incredible. They're having on insane guests, and they're just talking about life in the sports world and all the amazing things happening. So you can check those out at hallpassnetwork.com. And yeah, I just appreciate you guys being on today. So stay safe and stay healthy out there.
All right, you too.
Thanks.